Scientists have moved
6 months.
or right, 6 months, my bad.
Yeah.
Scientists have moved at pretty quick paces to, genetically identify the genome of the virus and try to develop vaccines. And we've heard about different vaccines in the past few weeks that are, in the works and approaching clinical trials. What are the odds of that happening, and what do you think about these new methods?
So there are two kinds of vaccines that are being tried. One is a candidate vaccine, meaning de novo production of a new vaccine specifically for coronavirus. And the other is borrowing from other vaccines that we know are safe and efficacious and seeing whether or not they work against coronavirus. If we get lucky and one of the vaccines we put in the freezer is safe and is effective, because we know they're safe, we've been using them. But if it's effective, then that could potentially have a vaccine ready for use in 4 to 5 6 months. That'd be great. But for the candidate vaccines, you're talking about a 14-month phase 1 and then phase 2 and phase 3 in 4 months. So you're talking about an 18-month time horizon. We got started on this about a month ago, so now you're talking about 17 months. But we will likely, I'm almost certain we will have a vaccine. I just don't think it's going to happen very fast.
Right, and it's not a replacement for what we should do now, obviously. And
no, you're talking about the major impact of COVID on humanity is happening right now. We're not going to have a vaccine rolled out to all 350 million Americans plus 7 billion people in the world in 10 days.
How do you, knowing that that's true, how do you continue to be hopeful, be hopeful that this will come to an end? Because up until now, we haven't seen any decrease, and we know that a vaccine's so far out. And that's what people usually consider as like a quote unquote cure, I guess, for a virus of this size. How do you stay hopeful throughout this time?
Yeah. So number one, it's just really hard, and we're on the worst part of it because we're watching the upswing happen. Have you ever ridden a roller coaster? The most anxious moment is when you're like going up the curve, right? And then when you come down the curve, you're like, oh wow, that was the ride, right? But you're just watching, and you're like, what's going to happen? Like, are we ever going to go down? Like, we just keep going up. So it's hard. It's really hard, and there's a lot of anxiety to be alone and know that people and you are vulnerable and that you can't really see your friends. That sucks. So I think we have to remember that humanity is very resilient, that we've learned a lot and we continue to learn a lot, that yes, more people will suffer and die of something that we failed to prevent, that we should have prevented. But I do believe that, for the most part, we're doing what we need to do to stay safe, to deal with this thing in the long term. But I'm also hopeful because I think, the grand telling of this, I think, young people are realizing that we cannot continue to have a society where every 10 years we have some major disaster, right? 10 years ago, it was the Great Recession. 10 years before that, it was 9/11 and the wars that came after that. Now it's the pandemic. Like, this society is just the way that we've organized it is unsustainable. And we have to act. And so I believe that, your generation and hopefully my generation too, will be a part of building a future where we realize we have to invest in our public goods and services, where we don't allow the richest to profiteer off of people's bodies and healthcare system, or people's economic livelihoods in an extremely unequal economy. Like, that's what gives me hope, right? And every day I wake up and I see my 2-year-old, and she's bubbly and bouncy and happy, and I'm like, that's what's good in the world. So yeah, this sucks. It's awful. It's terrible. We didn't have to be here. We shouldn't have been here. It's particularly bad for low-income people and people of color who are getting hit far harder. But I hope that this is a reminder that we have to fix it, and that fixing it is possible. But it's hard. It's hard. People will die unnecessarily, and that's just that's what we all wake up and try and fight. That's the whole point.
You're absolutely correct about the unsustainability of the way we've set up our system.